We want a vehicle that feels incredible, that accelerates like nothing else. And by the way, it's 500 miles at maximum weight at highway speed.
Okay, I had a lot of questions last week on my opinion on the Tesla Semi. It was released about a week ago. I've had some time to look over it and come to some conclusions, some good, some bad. If you guys don't know who I am a mechanic that runs a YouTube channel. We do a lot of engine swaps. I have my license to drive an AZ truck. I built that one from scratch. We build a lot of diesels, but also gas vehicles. I own an EV and really want to share my opinion on the Tesla Semi. Here we go.
That's a worst case scenario.
As you guys know, the Tesla Semi was released in 2017. It is 2022 today, and back in 2017, 5 years ago, Elon promised a pile of good things about the Tesla Semi.
I'm sorry to bore you. I apologize. It's boring. I know.
A couple things I really love about this truck is the regenerative brake system. That is a huge flaw in the truck world where you do rely on just your brakes. That is lost energy. That is energy going into the heat. And the ability of the Tesla to coast down a hill and slow the truck down without cooking brakes is huge. We use an engine brake traditionally that uses the engine's own exhaust against itself to slow the engine down, and it can reduce the wear on your brakes. The problem is it's very noisy. Also, if you miss a gear, or traditionally in an older truck like this, you can get the option of a runaway truck. That's kind of disappeared because most of the trucks are now automatic, so it does all of that for you. But to be able to slow the truck down, save lives, that is incredible. I love it.
Every truck we sell will have enhanced autopilot as standard.
Another feature that Elon promised is the self-driving way back in 2017. Tesla has been super innovative in self-driving in the auto world, but the automotive world is a lot different than the transport trucks. In the automotive world, you got a small vehicle that's compact. It only has 4 tires. In a transport truck, you've got a trailer behind you, and that makes it act completely different. There are a gazillion different scenarios that a computer, we do not have the R&D time to be safely able to control that like you can in a car. We still don't have full self-driving in the cars as it is.
I think it sees them. Let's see it. Let's see it merge. There's a truck behind me. I might have to take over. I'm gonna take over.
So wipe out the fact that Tesla semis are going to be self-driving. None of that was mentioned in the release in 2022, and I can guarantee you nothing of that is going to happen in the sort.
Like, I can drive this thing, and I have no idea how to drive a semi.
I don't think they actually had a trucker help design this truck. We've built multiple different vehicles. We've done reviews on multiple different vehicles and builds by our customers, and looks are subjective. So if you think the truck looks sick, that's good for you. I love it. If you think it looks ugly, that's also just an opinion. They wanted to redesign a complete new way of building a truck. Now, you could have done that with just a driveline, but they decided to redo the whole truck. I don't think that in the unveiling there was any truckers in the audience. It sounded like a lot of techie stuff. There was a lot of cheering for things that were irrelevant. Elon and his sidekick there bragging about using CAD to draw the cup holders. Nobody cares. CAD is used for absolutely everything. I use CAD in my designs on some of my builds, and I'm a nobody in a tiny town. Why are they even talking about that, but do not divulge the actual weight of the truck? Now, the specs are impressive, insane amount of horsepower, insane amount of torque. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because If you were a trucker and you want to get from 0 to 60 in 20 seconds or whatever and feel like a race car, except you're pulling 80,000 pounds, well, your load is all over the place. We cannot tie down our equipment and our boxes secure enough to be able to take those G-forces. Slow and steady gets you damage-free to your destination. The torque is impressive, absolutely. But that also comes with a side effect. The side effect of that being tires. All that energy is being transferred through the electrical motors, through the tires, to the road. I remember souping up a diesel for a customer. All we did was do a tune to it. And he left the driveway, he called me, he goes, "Rich, that truck is amazing. It's never felt that way. I love this thing. I'm blowing past everybody. I'm pulling my trailer and it feels like it's not even behind it." I called him again 6 months later, said, "How's it going?" He goes, "I chewed my entire tires. I did not do burnouts. It's just the torque going through those tires and wearing those tires." Unfortunately, if you're bragging about your 0 to 60 speed, you're also going to be chewing tires. Now there's a lot of them and they are not cheap.
The point of view that you have is also incredible. We put the driver in the center. So the driver's actually in the center of the truck. You're positioned like you're in a race car.
There's a couple major flaws that I see with the layout and the design of the truck as a whole. First thing that I would find very annoying is the suicide doors. When you are driving a truck, you are constantly worried about everything behind you. When you back up, you get out of the truck, make sure that there's no obstructions. You make sure that you have to go and open your doors. When you're hooking up your trailer, you need to get out multiple times to make sure that you're lined up right, that your landing gear is proper, that you hook up your air lines, that you look for air leaks. You're constantly getting in and out of the truck, but all of it is behind you. The suicide doors, now you have to walk around the truck and open the suicide door, get into the truck at the back, and then climb into the front. Very inefficient. A lot of time wasted there. With the truck like that, you open the door, the first thing you grab is the steering wheel, and you're already right behind the seat. So as sick as it looks, it's not very practical, and that is why every single other transport truck in the world has the doors opening from the hinge point on the front so you can climb in and get behind that seat as soon as possible to do what you need to do. The seat is now in the middle of the truck. That has one advantage, that now they can sell the same truck in Europe that drives on the wrong side of the road as they do in North America. But but the issue is you are sitting in the middle of the truck. Every time you get up to a delivery location, a border crossing, any sort of checkpoint, you need to hand over your paperwork. You need to, every time you go to a scale, you need to hand over your paperwork. You can't do that from the middle of the truck. I don't understand what the reasoning behind that is. So the way they push that is better visibility. So personally, I haven't driven the truck yet, but I've driven multiple different trucks, and it is very handy to look directly out your window, and most trucks have even windows in the bottom of the door so you can see directly down if there's a blind spot there. It's very important for when you're pulling into the left lane that you be able to see what you're doing. From the middle of the truck, you wouldn't be able to do that as well. They've got a giant center console to your right, and that would really limit your direction to the right. Also, if you need to get out the right side of the vehicle, say you pull up to a snowbank or you're pulling up tight, you need to get out the side on the right, you actually have to get around that console and go out into the back. Very inefficient and not very practical for our climates. We get a lot of rain, we get a lot of snow. That cab is going to be filthy 3 times faster than a normal cab. This semi is just a giant alleyway that is wasted space that now needs to be heated and cooled. Heated won't be as much of an issue, but you've got a giant window. If you've ever driven in the summer, you've got a ton of glass. Basically, you turn it into a greenhouse and you start cooking. So it's going to need a massive amount of AC to be able to keep that cool. Most trucks have small windows in the door, and then everything else is dark to be able to keep it nice and cool in the summer. Not that that's a big issue, it's just when you are running your air conditioner, you are also decreasing your mileage on an electric vehicle.
It's like driving a normal car, not like driving a truck. It's just that you're moving 82,000 pounds.
Okay, so now getting into the EV portion of the truck, there's lots of speculations on this and lots of calculations, and Engineer Explained did do a really good video on could potentially this work, and he brings up some good points, but speculation and engineers are wonderful, but in the real world, it doesn't really work that way. How much does it weigh? What's the payload? And none of that was explained, so obviously they're not as excited and enthusiastic about the truck as they make you believe. To counteract that, they wanted to prove that the truck could do 500 miles. They showed the truck driver closing the doors on that 53-foot trailer and then hopping in, taking one P brake, which is very impressive, over the 8 hours, and then reaching the 500 miles. There's a few things that you'll notice in there. Skids at the back, the one at the very back had a weight rating on it of 600 kilos, which is just over, there's about 1,300 pounds. Generally you can hold about 26 skids in a transport truck, and I hate doing this, assuming that each skid is the same weight and that they're not double stacked. Can't see that in that video. I don't imagine they weigh exactly 600 kilograms, but Elon said that the truck weighed 82,000 pounds. If the payload was only 34,000 pounds, we've got a huge issue, because in trying to achieve 500 miles, they've got so many batteries that now it decreases the payload. Now, when you look at the truck, you automatically think it's a sleeper. It's bigger. Day cab is generally just a seat with a window right behind you and your trailer behind you. Going 500 miles without an entire network of chargers to be able to charge you wherever you go, basically it is a day cab. You can get to your destination 250 miles away, make it back home again on one charge, and not go over your allowable limit as a truck driver. A day cab with a diesel engine, generally a 14-liter diesel, weighs about 3,500 pounds, transmission weighs about 2, and then you've got the rest of your drive line in there. So a day cab in total probably weighs about 15,000 pounds. That truck weighs 19,000, and that is a large truck with a double bunk on the back, stretch frame with a wet line. So that truck has 2 fuel tanks, probably enough fuel to go about 700 to 900 miles. And as we use that diesel, the truck gets lighter. That's less wear and tear on the roads. Now, if you're comparing the Tesla Semi to a day cab that's 15,000 pounds, you unfortunately are going to have to make 4 trips for every 3 that other truck makes. That battery pack is in there all the time. That is weight that is going across the highways, that is doing a lot more abuse on the highways. So once we all go EVs, you're gonna see road maintenance have to go up like crazy. A normal vehicle that's a gas powered would be 3,000, 4,000 pounds. You can add another 1,000, 2,000 pounds to each vehicle. Might not sound like a lot, but it does add up to the wear and tear.
So the future of transport obviously requires a sustainable energy infrastructure. Obviously, to charge a truck like this quickly, you need a high-powered charger. So we developed a megawatt class charger.
And then we get into the battery EV system. So it'll be cheaper to operate than diesel by being able to charge it. Unfortunately, that's at today's prices. All the big wigs are pushing for everything to go to EV. As soon as we go to EV, the prices are gonna skyrocket. We will not be able to afford to charge our cars and trucks because we need billions and billions invested into infrastructure. But let's not get into that. Let's focus on the truck itself. I do not believe that it can go 500 miles. If you watch the video, it doesn't pass anybody. Trucks pass it, cars pass it, and by best guesstimation, again, because they don't divulge the information, it was likely doing 55 miles an hour. Time is money. As a trucker, you are only allowed to be behind the wheel a certain amount of time. So you can't lollygag and go as slow as possible to be the most fuel efficient, because it is actually cheaper to burn the extra fuel to get to where you're going so you can go farther and deliver more. If that makes any sense to you. At the end of the day, 500 miles is best case scenario on flat ground, driving 55 miles an hour, stopping and going as little as possible, and you can just squeeze that 500 miles. Crank that air conditioner because you got a massive window, it drops X amount of percentage. Do it that many charging cycles at 1,000 volts on a massive, jamming those batteries full. Once you start adding cold weather, all of that, after 200,000 miles, that battery degradation is gonna go down even more. The batteries, because they are so large, also need a massive amount of cooling. They're using a 1,000 volt charging system on that truck and saying that they could charge in a half hour to 70%. That's fantastic, but that is a massive amount of heat that is happening that needs to be dissipated as well. Probably another reason why they did not divulge the total weight of the truck, because it's not just the weight of the batteries, it's also the cooling system and all the liquid involved in maintaining a safe charging temperature on that. It's not the first one either. There are multiple other trucks out there as well, and they have about half the range. They're still using lithium batteries, so even though they're not as efficient as Teslas are, I think it's a much better concept to be able to make it 250 miles, which is where your destination is, in a day cab, have that site, have a charger ready for you, have your half-hour break, get unloaded, charge the truck again, and make the other 250 miles back to home base again. While we're building the infrastructure, that makes a pile more sense than being able to get to point B and back home again, back to A on a single charge. Kind of irrelevant because you're gonna have to sit there and have your break and get unloaded or unloaded anyway. Can't do all of that in one day without a little break.
In the US, there's like 15 million passenger vehicles and a couple 100,000 semi-trucks. So it seems like a small percentage, but it's actually 20% of US vehicle emissions.
Elon could never make enough vehicles to even make a dent in the environment. Whether it's better for the environment or not, I don't know. This truck is 35 years old behind me, still making money, but I cannot see that happening with a 25-year-old Tesla semi, still on the road, still being efficient, still being able to hook up to 82,000 pounds and being able to drive a considerable amount of distance. Pepsi company owns, I think, 23,000 vehicles, and then they lease out or hire owner-operators for another 50,000 vehicles or something like that. There are a pile of trucks on the road, but they are on the road for a long period of time. There's only a few thousand trucks that get sold in North America every year. So even if Elon is able to make 500 trucks a year, he could have a significant chunk of the truck market. They did not divulge how many vehicles are made and when the people who put their orders in 5 years ago can finally get their trucks. They did say that they were going to run the trucks themselves, which is great, but they also promised vehicles to people who put a deposit down. And Tesla's been using that money for who knows what. Those people want their trucks. So it'd be really interesting to find out in the next few months if they're going to release any of that information at all. How many trucks are being made? How much does it weigh? And when are they actually available? Because yes, Pepsi did get their trucks, but I was already disappointed that we haven't seen more tweets and more information on those Pepsi drivers talking about their rides and real world experience. So I think that Tesla marketed this truck wrong, that it should have been a more compact truck for running around in the city, to be able to keep things quiet, to be able to not pollute noise and fuel in the cities. But unfortunately, they really deemed it to be a 500-mile long distance game changer and innovative truck. It is not that. It is a marketing tool for Pepsi because they got so much advertising. Even me, it's what I'm doing right now, is advertising for Tesla and for Pepsi, even though they did not pay for that.
But what's our actual mission? Our actual mission is to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. So that's why we're making this wide range of cars that don't really make sense from a brand standpoint, I guess, traditionally. but they make total sense when you consider what's the mission of the company.
Innovation is fantastic. I think there is definitely a purpose for electric cars in the city where you're driving nice and close to each other. You have a dense amount of population and allow the energy to be made off-site in a controlled environment and control the emissions that way. As for the country, unfortunately, we will not be able to get rid of diesel. There is no way that we can replace diesel excavating equipment, boats, and trains without diesel for the next foreseeable future. So it is going to be around for a while. Nice thing about that truck is it is a straight mechanical engine. We could do a little bit of modifying to vegetable oil and we can make it run on vegetable oil. But there's no money in that, so that is why you do not see a mass shift to a sustainable fuel. In the meantime, I'm gonna keep wrenching on stuff like this. I'm gonna keep driving my EV and doing an EV swap. So if you guys stick around on the channel, we'll be releasing that soon. And those are my opinions on the truck. And if you go back on our other channel, our main channel, I spoke way back on Dieselgate when Volkswagen was scamming the diesel tests. I think that was 6 or so years ago. Check that. I think a lot of that stuff is still relevant. And if we do want to save the world, I don't think it's going to happen in North America. Yes, we burn a lot of fuel, but diesels and gas both have come a long way in the emissions side of it. We've been able to drop our emissions on each vehicle lower, lower, and lower compared to an old dinosaur like that our air is actually cleaner. Now, go to a third world country where they throw their garbage in the street, where it rains and it washes downhill. They have old two-strokes and old fuel and garbage emissions standards on industry, and those I still believe are doing a lot more polluting to the earth than anything we are doing around here. But those are my opinions. I'd like to come back to this video in like a year and see kind of what I got right and what I completely have to take back that I was completely wrong and Elon proved me wrong, but we'll see. On top of that, I want your guys' opinions down below. Do not forget to share your experiences with EVs, your experiences as a trucker, whether this truck is going to do anything revolutionary or not, and we'll read those down. We'll have some fun conversations in the comments down below. Thanks a lot, guys. We got a lot more stuff coming up on the heavy duty channel. We're looking to buy a lowboy for this old girl so we can drive our tank around. Also putting a new interior in this K100 so that we can feel nice and homey going down the road. We got some good trips coming up on it, and thank you as always. Thanks for watching. Here we go.